Good morning. How's it? Aloha. Wintersun, Sons of a Winter and Stars. I got quite a few requests for this. And as I'm trickling through all these requests, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time doing it. I know some people get a little frustrated or keep trying, and you're all so kind about keeping trying too. And so I'm really enjoying this, and I have a couple of, matter of fact, the next 3 bands that I'm going to be doing are all I've never heard of any of them, and then I'm going to cycle back into a couple of other ones. But I'm excited for what I've got listed up here. I want to thank you guys for your comments. I want to thank you guys for sticking around. Oh my gosh, I broke 75,000 subs. It's crazy. I don't ever want to be about the numbers and stuff, but it is kind of cool. It's kind of fun. You know, people are catching some good stuff off of what I'm doing. And also I want to thank those of you who have and will in the future for buying me a cup of coffee, because you know that the channel's not monetized. And I really appreciate that. It helps out with, things with me and what I do with the kids, with the puppets, etc., etc. So anyhow, so let's do this. Wintersun, Sons of a Winter and Stars. And this is the live rehearsal, but it's mastered. So I did listen to a small section to make sure it sounded good. So I can be organic with my AKG 240 headsets. Links are down below. Stupid. Here we go. All right, this sounds like a great place for my first stop. What a huge ramp up in composition through production, through the arrangements. That opening, I couldn't tell exactly. I mean, it sounded like a harp that had that arpeggiation that opened it up, And of course, I mean, I noticed it when I took a check listen. I know this is, a metal band and the kind of performance that I think I'm going to get. Totally stoked at first, only because I've listened to it a little bit. It's of that same genre of I don't know if there's such a thing called metal theater. Very large, huge, gigantic sounds. all of some of the other a couple of the other bands, the Devin Townsend style production, the Nightwish style production. Excuse me. And then as they open up, I mean, they hit you really hard after you hear the harp, and you hear just this lonely voice as it starts to come in, and then this arpeggiation starts to break in with the guitar, and they hit you with the hard stuff really fast. And they start off with a really nice kind of motif, which is kind of a repetitive melody. It doesn't necessarily mean, like sometimes there's, when guitar players or keyboard players or even sometimes bass players will play just a pattern. Sometimes that pattern is a bass setting pattern, not bass in its tone, but the base of an arrangement. A motif has a pattern, but then actually has notes in it that has a repetitive kind of melody in it. And as we went along and powered through it, then, you know, it grew in its arrangement. And then I'm starting to hear in the background, hang on, give me a second here. As I heard in the background, I started hearing more, obviously they're playing to playback. If this is live rehearsal, but they're playing to playback here, I'm hearing more of the choral, the bigness, and another kind of a heavier synth sound or a pad, you know, holding the back as it's growing and growing and growing. Now, as the vocals start to come in, you guys remember how I do this. I don't look at lyrics, and I treat vocals as instruments. And then I get used to the band, and then as I come around and do another review on them, I know who they are and become a little more personalized with my reactions here. My decompositions as an old composer. Now, as the vocals came in, it was something that I was like, okay, I feel where the lead singer's going. I could feel it. I love the timbre of his voice, but what I really loved is what I just heard at the end is how he was holding down his melody as it was. I think it's a hook. We're only 2.5 minutes into a 14-minute track here. I love the fact that the other musicians who were doing the background, they were doing the growling, which actually powered the experience in the headsets in stereo. Was super, super cool. So the whole engineering aspect of the song at that point, building up all the way through, handling all of the layers, you know, not only with the live music, but also with the background, excuse me, and then the final experience thus far with the growling going left and right, which usually I'm used to hearing in my small journey here on the channel. The growling is the vocalist in the middle and is taking the power, but in this case they flipped it. The growling was left and right, and he was powering down the melody, you know, in its usual pocket, which is usually right in the middle. So let's just keep moving forward like I do. Let's see what we got here. Oh, by the way, that was a mental note right there. That guy just hit that. All right, before I let it run too far off, I wanted to just really dial in really quick to the musicianship of everything that's happening here. Everything here is powerful, powerful in its unison. So, once again, the riff, the motif, and everything that they're playing, the kick, the bass, the guitars, that unison is so tight, and the patterns that they're playing. And when I do this, I don't do this just for the guitar. The bass player is, following the same pattern. His strings are thicker. We know that about bass, man. And so the fact that I'm in awe of all bass players. I can play bass because I have to, because I'm a composer, and with media, I play bass. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 2 compared to these guys. All bass players that are doing this heavy work here, they got that whoa, these kung fu strength style fingers. That's just phenomenal. Even though they have great instruments, and it's all the pickups are set a certain way and the strings and everything are set a certain way. I don't care. What you got to do in time is, especially with something of this nature, is huge. It's monstrous. I do want to also bring up that in this passage, I heard more of the accompaniment arrangements. So when they got it really heavy into this really super cool arpeggiation, well, not much of an arpeggiation, but the riff that they had written that had a repetitive melody to it, and they were kind of all over the place in the sense that they were changing chords with their riffs. So it wasn't just in one little pocket, like staying in A or something. They were kind of moving it around a little bit, or a lot of it. I can hear in the background that there was like a hammered kind of synthesized keyboard doing the same exact notes. So even though these guys are playing live to backing track, at some point either the keyboard part was written first, was written afterwards, or whatever the case was. I don't know what the workflow is of how this band writes their music. It actually is an absolute sonically super. It even tightens it even that much more, and it's very subtle. Did you see me do this when I went like this? It's because I started to hear it on this side first, and then it just kind of opened up when the rest of the arrangement came in. So, and once again, I've said this before, I'll say it in almost every video I can. I'm not going to gush over the musicians, because at this level they're already, all hail, geniuses at what they do. Hence the delivery they give us for the songs they produce so that we listen to. So, but as well as the drummer, just lock and loading completely through the whole thing. I'm gushing right now because here's where I go again. I start to get all physically, emotionally wrapped up in the song, and sometimes I get a little frayed in the head and can't say anything. Stop real quick. I want to say right there, something else that really stood out to me is the guitar players playing what I would consider the lead melody, the notes, the melody. Not to take away from the singer who's doing what he's doing, but the guitar playing that melody through that section while the singer is growling and powering through that, to me, was the top of the pyramid of power in getting a hook across. That melody was very hook oriented, and it's something now that I'm remembering in my head, and it's powering through. But the fact that melody was going first they locked in tempo, so the lead singer was growling in a particular tempo, and the guitar player's melody was locking with it. Then the last, I think it sounded like 2 bars, that the guitar player kind of slightly drift from the melody, and then the lead singer changed his tempo. We'll go back and listen to that right now, and then I'll keep going. Okay, I know there's more to come. I want to just express to you how intense the layering was during the first half of that passage there. As a matter of fact, 3/4 of that. They had so much going on. They had counterpoint arrangements in harmony with vocals saying, I don't know what the words are, but definitely had a different lyrical line, while of course, excuse me, while the vocalist was doing what he was doing. And there were really heavy, rich layers that were composed in the background with the keyboards and stuff. And then there was even another, good morning, Jesus. And then there was even another solo vocal holding a separate arrangement way back over here. Not like back behind my head, but if you're listening to headsets here. And as I was getting lost in the layers and stuff, it's like a quadruple decker layer sandwich. And to get that all to work and not sound overbearing, too heavy, or just like mush is a huge challenge. And these guys nailed that to the wall. It was insane. Okay, here we go.
Dancing spirits calling me, join in the cosmic train. Silence is tender now. We are the stars.
All right, that passage was so cool. First of all, the guitar playing. If you notice, it didn't sound traditionally like an acoustic guitar, obviously. When these guys are doing live, electric guitars, for those of you who don't know, can kick in settings that actually have an acoustic style or very extremely clean sound. But if you notice, it doesn't have that depth, warmth, and richness of an acoustic guitar playing. In this context, this completely works for me because it's already set this kind of crystal tone for me anyhow. The depth of the composition of this track, the theater of the mind, the rock opera style, the rock theater style that I'm feeling through this song composition, that works out just fine for me. So if you just were thinking, well, it sounds a little different than an acoustic guitar, well, it's an electric guitar and they're not trying to sound acoustic. I think that was kind of a dumb moment I just expressed there. So they get into the super clean work and singing and everything, and then you can hear again the chord changes of the synths behind it, the tracks that they're playing behind. As a matter of fact, you see the drummer taking an opportunity to adjust his hi-hat, screw and take a breather there. But what I really loved about this is that it the arrangements and the chord changes that the vocalist was working through kind of remind me of a Nightmare Before Christmas, Danny Elfman kind of thing, because there was a little bit of a caught off guard modulation in the chords where it kind of went up a little and brought you down. And even his performance and how those chords are played gave me that, and I think it's fair to say even like Nightmare Before Christmas style theater of the mind is what I'm getting with this, very heavy, very not spooky oogie boogie, but I'm feeling that with the arrangement and stuff. And I'm not comparing them to, it's just what I felt. All right, looks like we're about to balls to the wall again. Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. and those beautiful, that's another thing that made me feel Danny Elfman-ish in this arrangement, is the voice harmonies, the choral, pseudo-choral voice harmonies that are escorting the lead through this phrase as well. So we'll go back a little bit.
It's calling me, join in the cosmic train. The silence is tender now. We are the sons of winter and stars. We've come from a far beyond time. Forever the fire burns in our hearts. Our world shall never die. With the arms of the wind we ride till dawn as the waves of the ocean cry so strong. We wander in the stars until we're gone. Our fate is sealed by eternal sun. The sons of winter and stars. We've come from far beyond time. Forever the fire burns in our hearts. Our world shall never die. In the arms of the wind we ride till dawn as the waves of the ocean cry so strong. We wander in the stars until we're gone. Our fate is sealed by eternal sun. Until we fade away.
Excuse me. That last little passage there, that last maybe like 15, 20 seconds, those orchestral stabs, bam, 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 da, 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 da. That whole passage that I just heard is like, if Pirates of the Caribbean or any kind of those movies that are very glorious and charge and go for it ever did like a rock opera, theater opera style composition, this would be the band that I would love to hear do, an arrangement on that, Once again, this kind of composition, the Devin Townsend, the, excuse me, I'm sorry, the Nightwish style composition, I don't see how there hasn't been a genre that's just metal opera. Could you imagine if there was nothing but like metal opera as a genre? How much power and life, bands such as Wintersun could put into writing, an incredible metal opera. I know that that Nightwish does, super great performance on stage that kind of gives you that energy. I don't know what these guys do, but this band's arrangements and composition is cinema worthy. That's how I feel as a cinema composer. All right, here we go. Well, media.
Until we fade away. It's not too late to find a way. Until we fade
Okay, I don't mean to laugh. I'm going to go back. We're going to listen to that again. And if you have headsets on, And if you don't, you might be able, if I tell you to focus on it, you might be able to hear it. But there was 12 bars there where this really low, dark, satanic, melodic voice was buried just kind of right in my spectrum of listening to it in stereo. It was just kind of right over here. Let me go back a little bit. Let's hear it and see if we can't. Okay, I just got to repeat myself. It's just a powerful sonic wall of theater. You know what I loved about this ending? If you just go back and listen to this ending, let me just do that for a second. Just listen to that synth, okay, and know that that was like a power ball of arrangement that was going through the back of everything. Let's just listen to that fade out there. Do you hear how edgy? Okay, there we go. Do you hear how edgy that synth sounds? So it's what I would call a distorted pad, as that's kind of what we look for when we're writing that stuff. Imagine that was part of the wall of sound that we just heard in that last 2.5 minutes, and they really took every single bit of their arrangements that they did, throughout this last 14 minutes. And at the very end, everything is combined in there. Full power vocals are in there with its big harmonies, with its big arrangements. And it just gets you, I mean, I was already kind of like going, I was in it. I was ready to charge. I was, okay, here's what we're doing. We're going to get the treasure, or whatever the case is. Once again, composers of this nature, I've only heard composers of this nature in this metal genre. You don't hear a composition like this in pop music, country music, anything music, except intentionally written for a reason, in the sense that it's for a media project. But as far as bands that actually dive deep and immerse themselves in this kind of power arrangement and stuff, I've only heard it in this genre. And I would not have been exposed to any of this had I not started this channel, and then you guys, giving me the suggestions. You're helping me grow. Even though my days are numbered as a composer, a media composer, because all the young guys and gals are coming up and killing it, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a bitter composer like, oh, those kids, they don't know. No, I'm like, hey, go kids, I'm done. I'll be on the beach. I'll go surf and fish. You guys do the hard work. if it wasn't for you guys giving me the exposure to this genre of metal music, I would have never heard of all these great bands such as Wintersun. So thanks for hanging out. This was really long. I've decided to stop a little more often and do this little journey with me. Tell me what you think about me doing those stops like that. It's not like I'm going to change my direction much, but I like to hear, how it's working, because any way I can better bring to you guys some interesting things about your favorite band, your favorite music, your favorite song, that's what this is all about. And again, thank you very much. If you see fit, links below, a cup of coffee, their Spotify, this song, their songs for sale, and everything is down below as well. So like I always say, all right.